Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Scoop World Order. Big Michigan breaking stuff. Is a coach about to get fired? We're going to break all that down. The NOI is due in less than 2 weeks, so exciting times to be an Ohio State fan. Terrible time to be a Michigan fan. Going to take your questions, break some film down, talk a little bit about the state of the team. I saw Ryan Day and Chip Kelly, along with Will Howard, take the podium today. Will Howard is a stud of a stud. Really, really, really good kid. Excited to talk to Nevada a little bit about that. If you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, we appreciate you guys kicking our list each and every night. If you're going to do something solid for us, please give us a follow on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, completely free. Takes 15 seconds to do. Appreciate you guys that do that. Again, we're trying to grow that format. It has been really, really starting to uptick, so thank you for that. With that being said, going to bring in Nevada. Nevada, the Michigan stuff is closing down pretty quick here. Some very interesting stuff broke late last night. I was texting you about real late, like 11 o'clock at night. What's the latest on Michigan and our boy Connor Stallions?
Well, the whole genesis of the big problem with Stallions was when it was revealed that he was on the sideline at the Central Michigan game, disguised as a coach, and that had kind of come out. There had been kind of radio silence on Central Michigan's part regarding who that was, what their involvement was, what the investigation was, and that kind of lay dormant for about 6 months, and then right before camp, they went and fired Jake Costner. They said you're gone right before they broke for fall camp. Really unusual situation. The guy's going to be the offensive coordinator. Just also unceremoniously gets his walking papers. Well, apparently he's dropped the dime on Jim McElwain, saying he knew about this. Like, yeah, I'm the one who gave him the clothes. I'm the one who gave him the Central Michigan outfit. But Coach knew all about this. So the NCAA now has opened up an investigation of McElwain to see what he knew, when he knew it, and if he did, he's facing major violations, potentially termination from his job. So, a major, sometimes with the NCAA, they move slowly, but when they move decisively. And, the ominous part about this for Michigan is, this is Central Michigan facing major violations for Connor Stallions being on their sideline for one game. At the time, he was an employee of the University of Michigan, and he did this very same thing with other people with the Buckeyes 50 times. So what Michigan is facing is, exponential. I give it 50 times worse, 100 times worse, whatever it is. But Central Michigan's taking it seriously enough, to cooperate with this investigation that could result in the termination of their head coach. And what Michigan did was 50 times worse. So, as a Michigan fan, this has got to be a very chilling development. If you thought that this was just going to all go away and the NCAA had forgotten about it and it really wasn't that big of a deal, well, this is bad news for you guys, because you would think that Central Michigan is just kind of a bit player in this whole play. You might think that they might even be a cooperating witness on the Michigan stuff. Maybe they got duped, they didn't know, whatever. But the NCAA is not playing that. And the look, to me, you've been on the sidelines before. You know better than I do. I have been on the sidelines, obviously not in any a fraction of the number of times you have. It's just hard for me to believe. Because McElwain knew Stallions. It's hard for me to believe that he wouldn't notice Connor Stallions on his sideline dressed up like a Central Michigan coach. Now, I know there's a lot going on. I know there's activity, but he wasn't like down the thing down by the the boosters and with the mascots. He was right there in the coaching box. So I don't know. We didn't talk about this pre-show, but do you believe? Just forget the evidence. Forget everything. Is it possible that McElwain could have just like completely missed another coach being there on the sideline and not seen him and not recognize Connor Stallions being there?
No, because here's the thing. The thing I love about football coaches is they like to play the public and investigators and people for fools. Like, you're just dumb. And that's why you guys watch our show, because I've been a coach. I've been on the sideline. I've been a player. Like, it would be much easier to do for Central Michigan if it was a home game. Because again, you could go into the home locker room, come out through the home locker room. But a road game, I mean, it's different because I mean, everyone is credentialed. You've got your little badge that you wear on your khakis, your little sideline pass. Like every coach gets one of those. But when you're on the road, it's a lot tighter. Like for instance, when Ohio State goes on the road this week to Wrigley Field, there's going to be way fewer people that are like Ohio State-ish type people around the field than there would be for an Ohio State. Like an Ohio State home game, it's just like a conglomeration of just random idiots down on the field. I mean, there's donors, there's people, there's fundraisers, there's people that are just trying to be seen, there's recruits, there's just like, so it's a lot easier to blend in at a home game because even Central Michigan, they have recruiting visits. So I mean, it's a lot easier. But again, once you get in between the 30-yard lines and you're in the coaching box, that's where you're in the no-fly zone. Like you're not going to find some random high school coach there. You're not going to find some parent there. If you are some ancillary staff member, some motivational coach or some like Maurice Claret's a great example. Maurice Claret is around the team now. Love Maurice. He's a monster. Won us a national title. But Maurice goes to the games out. He's on the home field and stuff. He stands down on the far end of the field for the whole game. Like he stands down like at the 20-yard line, open end of the stadium, the whole game. Like he's not down in the middle of the action. He's not down in the middle of the coaching booth where it's where it's hectic and it's crazy. He's down, and again, that's where guys like Maurice, and I'm not talking about Maurice. This isn't a celebrity, but someone that's not really part of the program who's just kind of there. That's kind of where they stand at. If you're like a motivational guy, or you're John Maxwell, or Andy Andrews, like we had those guys. I mean, they're not next to Ryan Day and the coaches that are Brian Hartline that are in the middle of everything. So for Connor Stalions to be standing in the middle of that, obviously people knew who he was. Jim McElwain knew exactly who he was. The offensive coordinator that got fired probably is the guy that gave him the credential, which is why he got the bullet, right? I mean, you don't fire offensive coordinator right before camp. Like there's not even time for there to be a bad practice or a bad scrimmage or some sort of an issue where you'd fire him. So to me, man, I just, there's no way Jim McElwain didn't know. And again, I know how young coaches work because I was a young coach, and I know how they network. And I know that when Michigan football has their Michigan football camp, Connor Stalions kind of turns into like a position coach. Like he's running drills and he's running, if he's with the linebackers or whatever, those guys it's kind of all hands on deck. Like at summer camp, everybody has a job. Everybody has a role. Like when I was, working at Ohio State, and we'd have our Ohio State summer camps where it was like, the GAs, we would run the youth camp that was like the 7th and 8th grade. And then there'd be days where we'd have the full high school camp, which is like the recruiting evaluation camps, where we literally, I would run an offensive line station, Ed Warner would run a station. Then we had a lot of great coaches. Like Mike Hallett was the head coach at Heidelberg. He's now the O-line coach at Toledo. He would run a station. It was like the same 5 or 6 of us every year would run the stations together. And so like when you're a young coach, like that's how Connor Stalions would really get to know these guys. And a bunch of those guys came from Michigan. So Connor had worked with them. He was fluent with them. Jim McElwain, obviously he came from Jim Harbaugh's staff at Michigan. So did a good job at Michigan. I'm not sure. I can't remember if he was the running backs coach, receivers coach. He or quarterbacks. I don't know what he was, but he had a good role at Michigan after he bombed at Florida. And then he parlayed that into the Central Michigan gig. They offered him the job. Jim McElwain, 10-ish years ago was like the rising. He was the not quite Kalen DeBoer, but he did a good job at one of the Colorado schools. Then he got the Florida Gator job, and he just absolutely bombed out in a major way. So I think that there's literally no chance that Jim McElwain didn't know who Connor Stalions was, why he was on Sideline. Because again, when you're that small of a program, it's nothing against the MAC schools, but like MAC schools just don't have the support staff that like Ohio State has. Like Ohio State has, if you wanted to run like a lean and mean football program, you go to like a MAC school, like for Division I. They have fewer dietitians, and they don't have 5 strength coaches, and they don't have 700 offensive line coaches. And like Ohio State has, the budget where they can afford to have 20 analysts and interns and all that. Like at the smaller schools, you don't have that many people. So it's real easy to keep track of who is what on the sideline. So when there's some random guy in coaching gear right in the middle of the no-fly zone, then that has to raise an eyebrow. So again, the only reason it didn't raise an eyebrow is because Jim McElwain, and again, I know Jim Harbaugh is the greatest liar who's ever lived, but I guarantee you, Jim Harbaugh and Jim McElwain knew what Connor was doing. Because, like I've said this a million times. Trust me, I've lived this. I was young coach, graduate assistant. Like when you're a graduate assistant on a Friday night and you've got a noon game, you don't just like I couldn't just go home at 5 o'clock and just go play Xbox. Like I had work to do. I had to be at the team hotel. I had to go through the test. I had to grade the test with Ed Warner. You hang out at the hotel about to the time the kids go to sleep. I would drive home. A couple of coaches would stay in the hotel. A lot of us would go home and get a good night's sleep at home, and we'd get back to the Blackwell at 7. I'd usually go to the Woody and get a workout. I'd get up like 4:30, get a workout in from 5 to 6:30, and then get to the hotel by 7. But when you're a guy like Connor who's making $55,000 a year, like you don't get the day off. Like you don't get to go home on Friday night and just go to the movies and go to Waffle House. Like, you're working. So he told somebody, hey, I'm not going to be there tonight because I want to go scout Michigan State and see if I can get their signals. So it's just one of those things where I think it's obvious, and I think that it's going to cost Jim McElwain his job if it's revealed that he was helping to advance scout. Nevada, I'm not sure if you have any thoughts on that. We're trying. Nevada, I'm not sure if you have any thoughts on. I said Connor Stallions could potentially be costing Jim McElwain his job if he gets linked to the advanced scouting. And again, I'm sure that Jim McElwain's deleted every ounce of evidence that's ever connected on Connor. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the NCAA opened this investigation for a reason. They're not just they're not just wasting their time. I mean, you've got information on this. They're not going to have a chance to come in with this. But I guarantee you that when Connor wants to continue to coach in football, so when they go to him and they're like, "Hey, what happened?" He's going to throw everything under the bus. I mean, why knew, when knew, and
I'm gonna have him come back in because his audio is obviously a little sketch. Yeah, I think it's gonna be really interesting for him. So, yeah, we've got a huge day. It was interesting. Ryan Day had Chip Kelly and Will Howard both meet with the media today, and I think that those guys all do a really good job with the media. Nevada, I'll let you finish up on your McElwain thoughts because you think that if Jim McElwain, personally allowed Connor on the sidelines, he's done, correct?
Well, he's definitely done. I mean, that's a major violation. I mean, he's definitely done, and that's I think that Central Michigan's looking for a reason to move on him, and that would definitely give them a reason to do it. And but to me, obviously, that's the appetizer on this whole thing. That just shows you how severely the NCAA views this whole scandal. I mean, Stallions did this 57 different times with advanced scouting, with sending people with recording devices, with using the information in games, with standing right next to the coordinators on their ear and calling out plays and formations and things in real time. So yeah, I just think it's ironic that the first thing to fall is going to be the Central Michigan coach when Connor Stalions the bad actor. I mean, he was a full-time employee. I mean, you talk about being like a GA and this. He was making $50,000 a year. Like he was like a full-time. Like he had an office with his name on the thing. Like he was more than a GA. I mean, he was a full-time staffer there at not part of the Accountable 10, but like a full-time employee. This recruiting analyst or whatever they were calling him, and while he's a full-time employee, he's on the sideline at another school. I mean, it's such a funny scandal that it just, like I said, it's going to be funny how this whole thing kind of gets resolved. But Central Michigan's going to get it right. They're going to get it first before Michigan does, and their part in this thing is just bit player. They're like the key grip on the movie, and they're going to get the major violation. They're going to get their coach fired, and it's a precursor, it's a preamble to what's going to happen at Michigan down the road, because Michigan's going to get slammed. And if you had any question in your mind about it, just look at this and got to go, wow, this is crazy. Because Central Michigan, you really thought that what was really the harm? They're out there. This guy showed up. They said, oh, we didn't even know that he was there, or whatever it is. Now this investigation's escalating. It's not de-escalating, and that's really bad news for Michigan fans.
Yeah, it's rough. So Nevada, Ryan and the crew met with the media today. Talked about the turf, which again, you had the turf thing first, where the turf company is removing some of the sediment. And again, if you guys have never been on or the field turf, there's a blend of like sand and like crushed up rubber tire that is in the thing. So when you see guys run and you see the little black pellets fly up, like that's what it is. And it said that they're going to remove some of it because their guys are slipping all over the place. I thought that was fairly interesting, because again, it has been an issue.
Wait a second. And you laughed at me when Nevadabuck said this the other night when we're on the thing, and I'm like, too many pebbles. And it was met with skepticism, a little scoff. My partner, my bestest buddy, the guy that I share the tree with, was kind of looking at me like, I'm not sure if you're kidding or not. And I'm like, I'm not kidding. I'm telling you, it's too many pebbles. That was the issue. But I think it's going to make a great big difference when they do that. And but anyway, I'm sorry for interrupting you. But yes, you did admit in your heart you were wondering if Nevadabuck had been drinking that night and was making the whole too many pebbles thing up.
I can't wait for Will Howard to slip so that people can say that they need more pebbles so that Will Howard doesn't slip all the time. Because Will Howard sucks. Like, that's gonna be great. It's like the first time he slips where there's two. Well, we have too few pebbles now. So now Will Howard, who I'm not gonna call him Will Howard anymore. I'm gonna call him Deep Ball McGee, because I've never seen a quarterback get picked apart over like one aspect of his game that he's actually good at statistically. Deep ball McGee, man, that is his thing, man. Because even the media, they're asking about the deep ball. I'm like, well, what is up with Will's deep ball? And Ryan's like, well, he can really throw it. Sometimes his feet aren't set, and it might, not make it. But it's like he can throw the deep ball. But I just, between the turf and like some of the stuff, it was eventful. But did you glean anything intelligent from today's little outing with the geniuses that were asking Ryan questions? Because it's painful at best. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Chip actually I thought it was an interesting insight. He was talking about on that play where Will hit Carnell right in the hands with the deep ball that didn't put it out there as far as some people might like. He said that the reason, in his opinion, why is because the Purdue was in a too deep look, and so that there's no way that player should be open, and that Will was caught off a little bit off guard. He said because the defensive back started running towards the line of scrimmage, and he didn't really understand what he was doing. And he goes, I didn't understand what he was doing either. He didn't take like one step forward. He took like 5 steps forward. He goes, so in a too deep look, you're never looking to throw the deep shot into that because you've got a safety over the top. He goes, but he was just open, and he just thought it caught him off guard. But I thought that was an interesting insight. But no, for anybody who doesn't like Will Howard, man, go watch his interviews, man. This is such a great kid. He is such a great kid. And they talked about the Heisman stuff, and he's like, I don't care about any of that stuff. And they said, well, what about the Joe Moore Award for the offensive line? He goes, no, I care about that. Those guys deserve it. Those guys are the best. I mean, he always says the right thing. But he's completely authentic. You can just tell the kids he's not full of it. He's not just, he's not full of it. But this is just a really, really good kid. And I know we were talking pre-show, and the big toughie was getting a little blurry, a little teary-eyed thinking about the fact that he's going to be gone pretty soon, because I think Will's time here, it's just been too short. I wish we had multiple years of him, at least 2-3 years. We're only going to get one, and it's, I think this is the first time in Ohio State history, or they were quoting some stat where he's had like 5 games over 80% pat, or some, it was some stat that no quarterback has ever done in Ohio State. But if you listen to some fans, Will Howard doesn't know how to cut. He cuts on the wrong foot. Will Howard can't throw the pass, and it's like, man, he's doing stuff no quarterback's ever done here before. And I think he's getting ready to have a monster game. I think he'll have. They talked about those Heisman moment games or whatever. I think that's going to be when we play Oregon. When we play Oregon in that rematch, that's going to be a really interesting thing because as you said, it's not an Outson. It's not. They're going to have to come east for that game. We definitely have the revenge factor. High up on the list on that, and we're playing better. We're playing much. We're a much different team right now than we did that. Now I realize we have to get through Northwestern. We have to get through top 5 Indiana. We have to get through Michigan, but I think this Ohio State team's starting to peak at the right time, and that's bad news for teams that are coming up because we're better. We are much better than we were at the beginning. We were much better than we were even 3 games ago. So watch out. Ohio State's going to be a tough out come playoff time.
I've got a question for you, and outside of the age, because obviously one is much younger than the other. Like, how is JJ McCarthy a top 15 pick and Will Howard is like some late round type guy? Because again, I know that JJ went after 3 years, and I know that Will's a 5th-year guy, so I get that he's younger. They always factor in potential, that kind of thing, but I just don't see the difference at all. I mean, I think Will's a better thrower, but like, is JJ McCarthy like? I mean, if he's a top 15 pick that a team's going to mortgage their future on, obviously he didn't even play this year, and like, is there that big of a because that's what I understand is like when I've seen terrible quarterbacks get drafted, like Anthony Richardson, terrible quarterbacks go in the first round, and Will Howard is like Bo Nix, chop. Bill Howard's just like chop liver, like. I just, I'm not gonna say when it's gonna be a first round pick, like whatever. I don't care. Like once they leave Ohio State, I wish them well. I hope they have a good, healthy NFL career. I hope they make a lot of money. But I genuinely don't care about anything they do post Ohio State, just because it doesn't affect Ohio State. Like we don't spend any time talking about Marvin Harrison Jr.'s stats from the Arizona Cardinals on this show. Last year, talked about him all the time. So that's just kind of what it is when you do an Ohio State show. But is there that big of a difference, Nevada? Because again, like I told you, I talked to the NFL guy I talked to. He loves Will Howard. He's like, this guy's gonna play in the league for a long time. Great teammate. Everyone in the building loves him. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, it's odd. I mean, it's odd, but we'll wait and see where the draft. I mean, I think that if we were talking about the NFL draft and where these quarterbacks were going to go at this point in the time last year, we wouldn't have thought those guys would have gone as high as they did. So let's wait and see how it plays out. I know last year, I think he was a 3 to 6 round grade designation from the NFL draft, and so I mean, can he play himself up in the second round? Could he play himself up in the first? I mean, I think anything's possible at this point in time because his best football's ahead, and he's got those characteristics. He's tough. He's smart. He's durable. He's played a lot of games. He's got tons of experience. So I don't know. We'll see where it all ends up because I would have my and lost if it was I've said this before, but when Colin Coward had told me, he's like, Nevada, I'm telling you, JJ McCarthy's a first round pick. I'm at Colin. You're full of, because, dude, I'm telling you, I talked to those player personnel. He's going to go in the first round. I would have bet everything I have that he doesn't go in the first round. So that shows how much I know about how NFL teams value the quarterback position. But to me, I mean, yeah, I think people are starting to kind of wake up on Will Howard because it's becoming more fashionable now to question why isn't this guy higher up in the. I mean, he's got better stats than Dylan Gabriel. What? Because they lost at one point on the road, on an offensive pass interference. Like that's the reason why Howard. I mean, Dylan Gabriel was like the betting chalk, and this guy's like an afterthought. It doesn't really make sense. So, I think that can change. We've got another top 5 matchup coming up. We've got that Michigan game. Always people pay attention no matter what it is. And we had Oregon again. So he's going to have plenty of opportunity to change people's minds. And I think he's going to do that.
I think he is too. I think he's going to be I think he'll rise. Like you see guys every year that you watch in college football, and you never really think. I mean, you don't think super highly. Like, I mean, nobody thought super highly of Anthony Richardson when he was playing at Florida. Nobody was like, "Oh my God, that kid's unbelievable." And then he goes third overall in the draft. I mean, Trey Lance played one game his senior or his junior year, declared. Um, just I don't know. I mean, I can see Will making a rise because Will do great at the combine. He'll do great in interviews. All of the boxes you can check when NFL coaches talk to Chip Kelly and Ryan Day, I think are gonna, um, they're gonna be pluses for him. He has a lot of intangibles, and I think he's gonna do great. Let's get into Northwestern prep. There's a lot of questions about how much, and this is an interesting thing that Chip Kelly talked about. Do you save plays? Do you keep stuff under wraps? Do you save stuff for, say, Indiana or Michigan? Or do you just kind of empty the clip? Do you run the playbook? And, Chip Kelly's been around the block, and he's coached in a lot of big games, and he's coached in a lot of games where, you probably could save stuff. If you're playing against a lesser team like Northwestern or Purdue, like you don't need to bust out every wing ding stuff. But I think that when you play a bad team, it's a perfect time to put stuff on tape that you might never run again. Like our two running back look, which I thought worked really well. Some of the other schematic stuff we were doing. I think it's a good time to experiment. But the thing that Chip said that I thought was smart and something that I've always known is that teams don't all play the same defense. So there's some stuff that might functionally work great versus Northwestern that won't fit versus Michigan or Indiana based on the coverage we're going to get, the personnel you go against, just the matchups. I mean, so I think it's going to be exciting to see what these guys do. The Wrigley Field thing is something I don't love because I don't love, playing on not an artificial, they put grass down after the baseball season to make a football field. And, I mean, it's fine, but I always get worried about these venues that aren't really made to host football, or they haven't hosted football in a long time. I know that, back in the olden days, the Bears used to play there a little bit, but it's not built for football. The end zones are tight. You got to sit in the bullpen instead of sitting in the locker room. So that'll be something that I think is going to be, not a big issue, but they're actually going to go to the stadium on Friday, it's something we used to do with Tress when we went to road games. We would always go to the away stadium the day before the game. We'd go and we'd do our walkthrough, a special teams check, kind of check out the locker room, which I used to like it. I used to, Urban, we didn't do that. We'd just go to the stadium on the day of the game. With Tress, we would go the day before, usually. I mean, if we had enough time. There were some times where we were running late, we couldn't make it, but we'd go in and go in the locker room, kind of see what the situation is, kind of see where we're going to meet at pregame and at halftime. And the thing I'd always like to do is I'd always like to get all my stuff ready in my locker. Like I'd put my pads in my pants, and I'd get my jersey kind of set up and get everything situated. So when I got there the next morning, it was all ready to go. So they're going to go check out the field, which I think is smart, just so the guys can see it, and sleep on it for the night and then be ready to go. Cause it's going to be, I mean, they're getting up at 4:30 in the morning, I think, on Saturday. Cause it's an 11 a.m. body time, which is going to be, it's going to be crazy. But that's going to be, it'll be noon body time cause it's a central standard, or it's a central time zone. But, playing at 11 a.m. is going to be interesting for these guys. But again, as much as people hate noon, Will Howard didn't hate it. And he said the same thing I did about noon. He's like, I like to get up and get going. I like to get up and get playing. You get to kill a lot of that anxiety and a lot of that stress because you can go play. Like, I mean, the problem with football is like when you play the night games, and especially when you're at the road or wherever, is you're just laying in your hotel all day and you've got anxiety and you've got butterflies and you've got whatever. Once the game starts, all that goes away instantly. So the quicker you can get to the point where that's gone, the better you feel. So that was always something that I loved, is where I could just get rid of the anxiety, get rid of the butterflies, whatever you want to call it. and get done. And honestly, I'm happy the Indiana game is at noon because I want our guys to get as much rest as possible to get ready for Michigan. So I know people wanted that to be an 8 o'clock kick night game, and that's cute and sexy and whatever. But for me, let's get done at 3:30. Let's get on to the Wolverines and make sure these guys have a full night of, relax, go out and kick it a little bit, have some fun. But you're gonna get more rest with a noon game than you would with a night game. Nevada, the noon game thing came up again today. 6 straight noon games. I know that would you prefer that the Indiana game be a 3:30 kick?
Well, I would, just because I think that at 3:30 we have a much different home field advantage than we did at noon. And I've said this. I don't want to be the old guy that repeats himself, but our crowds have sucked this year. We do not have the energy. We do not have a formidable home field advantage, and I hope we bring it for Indiana. I think we will. It seems like it's a big game. I think people have been. I've heard all the excuses. Well, it was too hot, it was too cold, it was too windy, the game wasn't exciting, it wasn't enough. I mean, it's like, guys, it's a top 5 opponent. It's Indiana. We have to bring it now, and I hope we do. But to me, I was hoping the game would be a 3:30 game. Yeah, and I wouldn't want the night game necessarily, but 3:30 I think would have been perfect for that game. Um, I frankly, Michigan game I like it at 3:30. That's a good time. Gets dark, gets kind of cold, gets kind of. It just seems fitting to have that game a little bit later in the day. But they asked Ryan Day about it, and he had the right answer, which was, he said, "I have enough things to answer to the OSU fans about without worrying about the game times. I'll let somebody else answer that one." And I thought that was such a great response by Ryan. But yeah, he's like, man, don't you can hang me with a lot of things. Don't hang me with game time stuff right there. But I think a lot of people are kind of fed up with the Big Noon thing. But man, get used to it. It's here to stay because we're part of Fox, and Big Noon is their flagship.
Yeah, I mean, we signed that deal and we knew what it was, and it turned this Big Noon into a thing. Because again, like to their thought process, and I think Fox is really they're really sharp about what they do, but there's no competition at noon. I mean, everybody wants to be the primo night game, the primo 3:30 slot. So noon's always, the Big Ten school versus the MAC team or the whatever. So there was never a thought of having the biggest game of the year outside of the Michigan game at noon. But, all of a sudden they made it into a thing. And, like I said, I don't mind noon and noon just because, I know how important it is to get rested this time of the year. I know that these kids they're beat to crap at this point. Their bodies feel terrible. You need as much rest as you can get. I mean, when I would get to this point in the season, man, I would, I'd still go out on Saturdays and kick it and have some beers with TJ and the guys and Troy and all those guys. But like, I mean, you still want to get some rest. And, with that noon, I mean, it's just so much better. I mean, I think that it's, because I think about what is the optimal deal for us down the stretch, even lead into the Big Ten championship. You run the table here and you play in the Big Ten title game, like, you get done at noon versus Michigan, then it's time to get ready for Oregon again. So, I don't want to hang around until 7 or 8 o'clock at night and then play the Ducks later. So, like, any little edge we can get from a rest perspective, I think is huge. And I know that it's just critical, man, because these guys feel like trash right now, and I think it'll help them. But yeah, I'll tell you what, man, I'm going to enjoy Chip Kelly as long as he's here because he's so wicked smart when he gets on the mic. I mean, he really controls. I mean, he runs circles, and he hates the media. It's so apparent and it's so funny, but he just runs the show and he runs circles around those guys, and it's really amusing because he knows kind of how to control everything, how to not be condescending, but man, he says himself like, what a dumb question sometimes. You can just see it in his eyes. And like I said, I really liked what Ryan said about, everyone's mad about me about everything else. Like, I can't control, like, the only thing Ryan has no say in is kickoff time, and if we're Big Noon every week or not. But I don't know. Like I said, I go back and forth because, I'm captain noon games, so I can't complain about every game being a big nooner. And it doesn't affect me because like I said, I like to roll out of bed and head to the stadium and go watch the game and then get back, podcast, and then watch the 7 o'clock game. Like, that's optimal for me too. So, when I know one thing, Nevada, and I know that you're Mr. Young Spring Chicken guy, but whew, when we had that 3.5 hour podcast after that Oregon loss, like that was, I mean, I was dying because we went till about 4 a.m. that night. And I was sitting there about slumped over in my chair, and we finally ended it after we had about 150 super chats. And that was a long night. But again, I know that you're Mr. Night Game, you're Mr. Tough Guy, and I'm not, but it's fine. I know
You
where I am
were
in the world.
you were a big softy that night, man. I was ready
Oh,
to go. I was ready to
you
go
were
over to the
you
chair.
were dying by the end of that. Come on. Yeah, right.
I-
Let's go listen
I-
to the audio. We got that on tape. You were about ready to fall asleep in your chair, your
I
rocking
popped
chair with your
like
corn cob
eight
pipe.
I ate Advil, and I was there, and yeah, no, I did.
Oh
That
God.
was quite that was great. That was one of our finest moments. But yeah, no, that was grueling. People don't think podcasting can be physically taxing, but man, when you have to go like that, it was demanding. There's no question
Well, I mean,
about that.
it's like running a marathon. Like the beginning, like the first hour is pretty easy, but like I mean, it was like when we did that Michigan Alabama watch party. That was like 3.5 hours long. That was, oh my God. By the end of that thing, I was ready to die. It was so long. And then of course Michigan wins, of course, because why wouldn't they? So we spent 3.5 hours of our life for a thing where we didn't make anywhere near the revenue we expected. But hey, we were there. It was a good time, but not a long time. Young Nevada spring chicken boy.
Nobody's
H-
going
h-
to
Hang on, Nevada. I got to kick you out of your yellow.
our Michigan Alabama game.
I got people think that you're in a submarine right now. That would be amazing if we had the Nevadabuck submarine and you're floating around in the middle of. Oh, here he comes. He just pulled the hatch. He's like coming back up the submarine. We're gonna get him fixed. We're getting him a mic for that. But it's Nevada the submarine boy. All right, we'll dig into some super chats. He's about to come back in. My little submarine boy. All right. The submarine is resurfaced. So Nevada
No,
sub is
what's going on
back.
with the sound? Is my sound bad? My sound's bad tonight.
Yeah, tonight it's you. Yesterday it was me. So guys, I apologize for the sound. We were getting it fixed. We got an engineer coming tomorrow to fix our sound. But no, I think it's this reception on your phone because I mean it's people are like, is Nevada in a sub or is he a robot? And I was like, well, he might be a robot in a sub. You guys ever think about that?
Oh,
Like
no.
we've got the real
I don't-
Nevada but
I don't-
cryogenically frozen. So Nevada is in.
wanna be-
He's in. Who is the guy from your show? He's in Tony Yester's sub right now. So at the bottom of the ocean.
Am I still? Do I still sound bad?
No,
right now?
no. You sound great now.
Oh,
But
wow.
like,
Okay.
yeah. So we're good now. We are.
All right.
We're the Buckeye Scoop Sound Podcast. That's what we're gonna change our name to. So we're gonna get this cleaned up, guys. We apologize, but we appreciate you guys kicking it with us as always. Because again, we are improving stuff, and I think that the culprit. You guys will love this. So yesterday, it sounded like I was podcasting inside of a beehive, and I think my little wild Kane, who's my little 3-year-old, turned my one knob because I was looking at my stuff and my one XLR knob was turned all the way to cranked all the way over. And I've never done that. And I was like, gee, I wonder who could have touched that. He just turned it all. So I listened to it yesterday and it was not good. So I apologize for that. We're going to get everything fixed, but we love you guys. And again, we are not sound engineers, but we try to entertain you guys the best we can. And again, we love you guys. So sorry about that yesterday. Down on Karen Rosbeck, thank you guys. I hope you guys are doing great down in sunny Florida. Thank you for the 5, my friends. Come on, Nevada. Connor, watch television to learn the opponent's plays. He said it, and I believe him. Don't you? Sarcasm, Nevada OH. Connor Stallions is living proof that some people will literally say anything, and they will hope that there are just stupid people out there that'll believe it. And that there aren't people like me. And again, we literally said, we'll put money up. Give $1 million. Go ahead. You go pick the signals for Michigan off of the TV copy where they never showed the signalers ever. You couldn't figure out a single play from that. I promise you, because they don't show the whole signal. The signals are like 7-8 seconds long. It's not just like one little, it's not like they just do this. It's like, it's all these different gyrations and, you know, and that's how you get a play. It's not just one little rinky dink thing. So again, stupid, but it is what it is. Nevada, your thoughts again. Did your boy Connor pick anything on television? I love that he said that. The dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, but they should have challenged that. That's, I know the guys were doing kind of a half-assed job on that mockumentary, whatever you want to call it. But I mean, like, how do you let something like that go unchallenged? Something that's just so integral to the story, and so just completely, totally false and provably false. So yeah, I don't know how they let it go, and yeah, that whole thing was certainly the most far thing.
Well, the funniest thing to me is like, all I would say is, okay, Connor, show me how you did it. Show me. Tell me what games you need me to get. I'll get every TV copy of every Ohio State game. You show me how you could pick signals from the TV copy. Well, I'll sit there with you. I'm gonna pop my popcorn. No, I'm gonna run a movie theater. I'm gonna eat the good movie theater popcorn with the Exxon Valdez butter that's like, that just instantly hardens your arteries. I'm gonna get some of that stuff, and I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna watch it, and I'm gonna say, okay, you show me how you could glean anything from a TV copy, because I've watched TV copies of football my whole life. I love watching football nonstop. I've never ever been like, I think that the signal for a quarterback draw is that, because I keep seeing a little Geppetto, because they don't show signals because nobody cares. They show a replay of the previous play. They show the referee announcing a penalty. They show one of the coaches, one of the coordinators. That's it. That's all they show. They never show. They might show the signal like in passing, but again, stupid. No words for it. Sam Osborne, thank you for the deuce. Who do you think is faster, JJ or Trey Henderson? That is a tough question, because God, Trey looks really fast. If you put a gun to my head, I'd probably say Trey. Because JJ is so big, but I think JJ is a 4-4 guy all day, but I think Trey might be a 4-3 guy. So Nevada, who do you think is faster between JJ or Trey Henderson?
I'd say Trey. Like I said, I think JJ low fours, Trey's high 4 3s.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, when you're smaller, if two guys are first round picks and super talented, like if you put a gun to my head and say who's going to be faster, I usually say the smaller guy, usually. But again, it'd be close. It'd be a good race, and I think Trey's going to tear the combine up. I can't wait for it. Nick Ma, thank you for the 10. I hope you're doing great. Speaking of bad NFL decisions, James Laurinaitis said on 97.1 how he sees bad coaches just change polo shirts and they get fired and go to a new team. A lot of truth to that. I mean, in the NFL, there's a lot of bad coaching. And I swear to God, some of these guys just go to the coaching conventions and they just trade polos with each other. And, okay, I'll go coach the O-line at this place. And it's like a big hopper, where these guys, they keep getting jobs and they can't get an NFL job. They go down to college, and, it's, I mean, James has seen it. I mean, he's been around it. I'm sure James has a great network of NFL guys that are really, really, they've been around the block. And I mean, I was in the league. You guys remember, I played on like 6 teams in 3 years. I was all over the league, and I saw some horrifically bad coaching, like stunningly bad. And I was like, this is amazing. This is NFL coaching right here. And then I saw guys that they had one job and they got fired and they never coached in the NFL again. So, I mean, I know it when I see it, and you can tell the guys that are going to rise, the guys that are going to be great. And you can tell the guys that are just going to kind of fade into oblivion. And, coaches, they're not immune from criticism. Obviously they get criticized a lot, but some of the stuff they do is just dumb. Like, they don't even give themselves a chance. And again, I think it's because they're arrogant or they're egomaniacs. I don't know what it is, but I watched some stuff and it's just impossibly bad. But kind of is what it is. And I think a big part of it is there's just there's a comfort level with a lot of these guys when if a guy gets the job, if he gets a head coaching job or gets a coordinator job, and he's worked with somebody in the past, and he's got some rapport there, then I think that he's gonna potentially go get him. Like Tom Herman. Like Tom Herman took the Florida Atlantic job, and he goes and gets Everett Withers, who he coached with at Ohio State. He goes get Ed Warner, who he just fired yesterday. When he got the Texas job, he went and got Stan Drayton. He was with at Ohio State. Urban. I think honestly the thing that killed Urban the most at Jacksonville is he didn't have enough of his true guys. He got Charlie Strong there, but he didn't get, he had nobody on offense that was like one of his guys. So, Urban, like when he came up here from Florida, I mean, he went and got, Stan Drayton was retained. Um, he went outside the box to get Tom Herman and Ed Warner, but he knew Tim Hinton. They were GAs together at Ohio State. He got, Mickey and Pantone and Volt and all those guys. So um, I think that sometimes comfort leads to jobs in coaching where, guys that are buddies will hire their buddies regardless of kind of how they've been. Because I think that a lot of these guys, it's tough. I mean, it's kind of the great unknown when you become a coach and you got to figure out, okay, who's my, you become a head coach. Who's my O-line coach going to be? Who's going to be my DC? Who's going to be my strength coach? Like because it's not always who do you want, it's who can you get? Because you got to remember, like with Urban, he didn't want Tom Herman. He wanted Chad Morris from Clemson. He didn't come, he wanted Adazio. Adazio wasn't going to come. Um, he wanted Matt Campbell. He's the head coach at Iowa State. He wanted Matt to be the tackle and tight ends coach. So again, it's not always who you want, it's who can you get. So that's why I think a lot of these guys in the league, they just switch polos and go from team to team. I mean, it's almost stunning how funny it is. But Nevada, what are your thoughts? Again, James, and James was great on the radio. He was great as a play-by-play guy, but he said how he sees bad coaches is they just change polo shirts as they get fired and go to a new team. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, owners love to do that. They love to rehash old guys because it's safer. They've done it somewhere else, so you won't get criticized. You're not taking a chance on somebody because the last thing NFL teams, they don't want to take a chance on anything. Or the college team same way. Like you said, you can't always get what you want, but sometimes you get what you need. Write that down there. That was really good. That was really good. Wow.
Did you just make that up? That sounds like a really good song lyric.
Yeah, I know. It really does. We need to put that down immediately.
Can we copyright that?
Yeah, I think so.
Strong. Buckeye boys, my boy Devin, how are you tonight, my dude? Thanks for the 20. Will has thrown for 80% or more in 5 games this year. Howard for Heisman. Buckeye boys on at 6:15 tonight. Oh, excuse me, 8:15 tonight. 2024, 2025 Natty Lock, Nevada OH. You guys need to check out Devin. Him and he's growing him and Mel are growing an incredible channel right now on Buckeye Boys. So make sure you give it a follow. It's Buckeye, and then the boy ends with a Z, like Boys in the Hood, the old family film that came out 20 years ago or whatever, 25 years ago. But yeah, they kind of go. They've got a great little system where they're going to go at 5 o'clock on Sundays, and then we have B Moses and Funky at 6, and then we go at 7. So if you want the greatest Ohio State experience of all time on Sundays, then start with Buckeye Boys at 5. Then you got us at 6 and 7. Big time stuff, and just great people, really working hard. Put up some really nice interviews with recruits. They do a lot of recruiting stuff. So make sure you follow the Buckeye Boys. Appreciate you, Dev. Nevada, your thoughts again. Appreciate you, Devin, who's also a moderator on here. He says, Will Howard has thrown for 80% or more in 5 games this year in Nevada. Will Howard for Heisman. Nevada, is that good, bad, poor, or not good?
I think it's something that's never been done at Ohio State before. All these great quarterbacks that have got, it's funny because people will say, well, we were spoiled by Dwayne Haskins and CJ and Justin Fields. It's like, none of those guys ever did this. So, no, Will's fun, but the entire offense is fun. The fact that we have a Chip Kelly run offense is crazy. Much like you said earlier, I'm going to enjoy every minute of him being here because, I don't know how long he's going to be here, but every season we get is really a blessing because I never dreamed that we'd see a Chip Kelly running the offense at Ohio State. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and he does a lot of interesting things and can take a good quarterback like Will and make him really, really good.
Yeah, like I said, man, I mean, Oh my god, people complain about the dumbest stuff. I'm like, dude, people don't think Chip Kelly's good. I was like, I watch his stuff, and it's so hard to go against. And then he throws in wrinkles like our little two running back thing where it's and we run a little bit of triple option, some wing T looking stuff, and I'm just like, it's so hard to go against. It's so hard to defend, and then on top of that, the scheme is hard to defend, but then when you put the players inside of the scheme, oh my god, it's just it's terrifying. And again, I love that our offense is hard to go against because of the illusion. And he talked about a little bit about like some of the motions and the shifts and and making guys have to really be disciplined with what they do. Because if you're not disciplined, you're going to get shredded. And again, I broke some plays down yesterday, and I was like, I love what we do on offense. I love watching it. I don't care. Like people, they complain about deep ball. I'm like, dude, we have the greatest red zone proficiency that we'll ever see at Ohio State. Like, I mean, our percentages is absolutely between our offense and defense, our red zone offense and defense, it's the best in Ohio State history combined. I've never seen it. Like we held Oregon out of the end zone when we needed to. We held Penn State out of the end zone on 4th and 1. We score like 90% of the time or mid 90s, in touchdowns in the red zone. Or I don't know what it is, but it's like astronomically efficient. And I just don't know how you can complain about that. I really don't. And again, people need to factor in total touchdowns. When you talk Will Howard, you better count those 6 rushing touchdowns too. Because again, CJ for 2 years didn't run for a single touchdown. Will's going to probably run for double-digit touchdowns this year. And again, the thing I was talking about a little bit with, I was talking to Zach Smith a little bit tonight. I was like, I wish that they would move the award voting to after the postseason, especially now that they've expanded the playoffs, because the difference between college football and every other sport is that they don't separate regular season from postseason statistics. It all blends together. Like if you go to the NFL, like your playoff, Pat Mahomes playing 3 or 4, playoff games, they don't tack those touchdown throws onto his regular season total. Same with the NBA, same with the NHL, same with Major League Baseball. There's always separate statistics. In college football, it's one big glob. So if you play 17 games, I mean, your stats are your stats. They don't say, well, he only played 12 regular season plus a title game, a Big Ten title game, plus 2 or 3 playoff games. Like it's all one big swath. So, if you think about it, I mean, a lot of these voters that vote for the Heisman, they're going to vote the week after the Michigan game, and they might not even count the conference championship. And Will Howard could throw for 5 touchdowns and 330 yards and run for 2 touchdowns and beat Oregon, and it won't count. So to me, I would make all the awards post the final game, because again, you're going to have a lot of football to be played. I mean, you're going to have, you could be playing 4 games after your final home game. You play in a conference championship, 3 playoffs. I mean, that's a lot of stats that are going to get accumulated that count. They all count. So I don't know. I just had that little epiphany. D Sunny, thank you for the 5. Can you walk us through what a quarterback is processing during a 2-minute drill from the time the previous play ended until the next play starts? D Sunny, you come up with the best questions, man. I swear to God, you're so. If it's a 2-minute drill, it generally depends. I assume that this is after a completion, where you have to get to the line and get the play and signal it, and you got the communications in the headset where you're getting information in the play call from Chip Kelly. I think that you got to make sure that you've got the right personnel in. You got to make sure everybody gets lined up where they need to go. You got to make sure everybody gets to play. You got to figure out how much time's left. Do you need to burn a timeout? You got to figure out where you need to get to. There's a lot. When you're a quarterback, man, you got to run the whole show, and you have to do it fast. Because you don't have the luxury of using the whole play clock. You can't. When you're, if you're, obviously behind, if you're doing a 2-minute drill, like you got to manage every second, and you can't be, kind of taking your time and fixing stuff. So. But yeah, I assume because obviously it's way different if you have an incompletion and you can huddle and the time isn't of the essence. But if you get a completion and the clock's rolling, then you have to move pretty quick. Nevada, anything to add to that? Again, D Sunny, thanks for the 5. It says, Can you walk us through what a QB is processing during a 2-minute drill from the time the previous play ended until the time the next play starts? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's so much going on, and I think one of the big things that you said, right now that a lot of people miss is making sure you got the right people, make sure you have the right number of people on the field, make sure you got the right guys when you're calling a play, and then make sure everybody's in position before you go to the next one. And that's why NFL teams are so proficient at it. You see, NFL teams can go and if they have a minute, it's not even a problem for them to move 50, 60 yards down the field, go down there, kick a field goal, score a touchdown, whatever. Where college teams, man, it'll take them a good 20, 25 seconds just to line up. So yeah, the biggest thing that I've seen in my years when I was coaching was just getting guys on and off the field on time, making sure that you didn't have 12 guys on the field or 10 guys on the field, and making sure that everybody's out there at least knew what the play was. But it's a lot to process for a quarterback. The fact that guys do it, that some guys are so good at it, and can move the team, down there. That's a very special skill set to be able to manage that, because you're playing like 4-dimensional chess, and some guys are just really really good at it, and they're the ones that are the most fun to watch.
Yeah, and you have to figure out, if you get a completion, do you need to clock it? Because there's so many times where you'll see guys that, or teams that aren't well coached, where they won't have enough guys on the line of scrimmage, guys won't be set. Because usually, like if you've got, if you're clocking it, you tell the receivers to just be on the line of scrimmage, because you're only allowed to have 7 guys across the line, so it's a 5 offensive linemen, then you have to have 2 eligible receivers, one on each side of the ball. On the line of scrimmage, but you got to make sure you have 7 across the line when you snap it, or else it's an illegal formation. So, yeah, there's a lot of little things, but I think that the beauty and something that we've heard a lot about, and that Chip Kelly talked about, is how the helmet communications. It's kind of like it's basically like having someone in your ear while you're taking like the ACT or the SAT, and they can tell you the answers to the test while you're taking it. Like it's almost incredible how much help Chip Kelly can give. And he talked about how, hey, the backup cornerback just came in, or hey, remember, look curl to flat, or hey, watch this blitz here, because they like to do it on third down. Like he gives all these little mental reminders to Will Howard, again, from the comfort of the booth. Because again, one thing that I hadn't talked about, that I think is really important, is the fact that when you're on the road, or when you're even when you're at the shoe, if Chip Kelly's calling a play into the headset and it's going into Will Howard's ears, and with the communications, like, it's going to be a lot cleaner and clearer audio, which obviously we're trying to become experts at, but we're not quite there yet. If you're in a booth where it's quiet and sterile, as opposed to if you're down on the sideline, because again, like imagine if you're at a whiteout in Happy Valley and you're trying to call a play, and Will Howard has to hear that along with 110,000 crazy drunk idiots from Penn State screaming in the background in his ear when it's already deafening. So I think that that's a huge edge, and that's why I'm glad Chip went upstairs, because I think that his value add to helping the quarterbacks be as proficient as possible, I think it's just so huge. And like I said, I'm just really excited about it. All right, Nevada. I think we got all of our chats, and I think we can wrap this thing up. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, looking forward to the Northwestern game at 11 a.m. Kind of wonky start. Playing at Wrigley Field, which is I love those games. I like the Yankee Stadium games. I will be holding my breath that nobody gets injured, and just not that you're always concerned about that, but anytime you're dealing with turf and planting grass and doing stuff like that. So let's just hope we get out of it uneventfully. But I'm looking forward to Ohio State taking another step defensively, kind of unveiling a little bit more, and offensively just continue to build, especially continuity on the offensive line. Let's get those guys in there. Let's look crisp and take care of business on the Wildcats.
Yeah, and just to be clear, it's 11 Central, so it's still a noon game for us on the East Coast for a lot of you Ohio State fans. So I just want to make that clear, because otherwise you guys are going to tune in at 11 and you're going to be yelling at my boys Submarine Buck. So All right, we'll wrap this thing up again. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for your patience with our audio. We're getting it cleaned up. We have an engineer coming in tomorrow, so hopefully it'll be nice and crispy for you guys going forward. So again, we appreciate you guys. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, I appreciate you guys for being a part of the show each and every night. Can't do it without you guys, so keep spreading the good word of Buckeye Scoop. Again, give you the inside information. My phone's been ringing off the hook about what's going on in the Woody Hayes, and a lot of good stuff going on. So really excited about this stretch run. If you guys want a great Christmas gift, consider giving the gift of BuckeyeScoop.com, our premium concierge website where we're on that all day giving our thoughts. It's basically like a podcast that's 23 hours a day. The other 1 hour a day we're on here. So it's a riot, and there's a lot of great people. Thousands of your new best friends will be on there waiting for you to talk Ohio State football all the time. And it's absolutely awesome. So, but again, I love you guys. I appreciate all that you guys do. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, we appreciate you guys kicking it every night. If you want to do something huge for us, get on Apple Podcasts, subscribe to Buckeye Scoop. It is the easiest thing you need to do to help us. It's a great way to say thank you for us going every night. Again, we love doing it, but that's kind of like a cheap, easy way to help us out. Again, it's like leaving a review for a restaurant that you like. It really helps them out. You subscribing to our show on Apple Podcasts really helps us out, and it takes 10 seconds completely free. And again, we appreciate you guys. So with that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. And make sure you head over to Buckeye Boys and go see my boy Devin and Mello. Tell them that Buckeye Scoop sent you. But we appreciate you guys. You guys have a great night. Go Bucks. Good night.